having a PE just obviously gives me a little bit more credibility. Having the dedicated time and knowing what that dedicated time is. But there were some days that just my mind wasn't processing, or I began to feel frustrated really quickly, and it's okay to take those breaks too. We all have bad days. If you're in a position where you don't have to force yourself, just like we were already speaking to, you can adjust the scheduling with the PE exam a little bit in order to give yourself more time. It was much more effective to sit down with a clear mind. The FE was harder.
Hello guys, welcome back to the Genie interview series where I interview engineer community members who have passed their FE and PE exams. Today, Beth is joining us again, but this time to share how she passed her PE exam. For those of you guys who haven't met Beth, she graduated in 2007. She failed the FE exam 3 times, but she passed her PE on her first try. Beth took the PE Water Resources and Environmental Engineering, and in this video she shares with us her schedule, the study material she used, the practice exams she took, and her exam experience. She also talks about the application process after she passed in order to get her license. Beth provides some great insights on how to pass the PE exam and also some important things to do beforehand to make the application process easier when applying for the license. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out immensely. Beth, welcome back to our channel.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Great to have you back.
Thank you. Yep, and it's good to be back. It's nice to be able to revisit under these terms.
Awesome. So if I remember correctly, you passed your FE exam last December 2021.
Yes, that's
now,
correct.
When did you start preparing for your PE?
I started studying for the PE in February of this year, February 2022.
Okay, so you did take a couple months off?
I did take a couple months off, yes. I sat back to somewhat enjoy the holidays, but it still is kind of hanging over your head anyway, but I tried to relax some. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, what study material did you use to prepare for your PE?
So the experience that I gained from my FE studies was that I initially started on my own. I had my own textbooks, and I was trying to work on my own through a lot of the material and through the problems. And then that's how I ended up with your course. And so I started to look for a course that was somewhat similar to yours, and I didn't find anything, but I did register for the PPI course. And that course offers the breadth and depth portions. And so the breadth is all inclusive, then the depth focused on water resources, which is the exam that I took for water resources.
Okay. How did you find that course? Was it helpful?
The course provided structure. It was not like your course. I went with the live courses, or excuse me, that's correct. The live courses with the hopes that I would be able to ask more questions throughout. You and Pranitha were always helpful in answering questions, but there were certain things that I would have liked to get feedback on immediately. And so out of my impatience, I went with the live course. However, I learned that it's almost like a script anyway. So it's a scripted live course. You can ask questions. The breadth instructor was very scripted. The depth instructor was very, very helpful. So it was 2 different experiences on that.
So you got 2 different instructors.
Yeah. The breadth instructor, of course, not of course, you don't know. The breadth section is the first session, and then the depth section is the second session. And so you do have 2 professors for each of those.
Okay. And okay, so it was a live class. So how many hours did you study per day?
I still stuck with my FE schedule of around probably Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day. And then Saturday and Sunday, including the live course, because the live course was on Saturdays and Sundays, and it ran for, I think, about 3 hours each day. in addition to a few hours before or after. So we'll say roughly 6 hours per day, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. And then how long did you do that for? So you did February and then you took it July.
Yeah. So the course ran from February through the end of April, both of them. But when I went through the breath course, I didn't feel that comfortable with it. I went ahead and concluded the depth course because that's what I had registered for. But that's when I revisited your material. And so knowing I'd actually originally scheduled to take the PE exam in May and then postponed to July because I knew I wasn't ready. It's one of those, I hadn't even taken any practice exams or anything. I just knew I wasn't ready.
Okay. So
yeah.
you purchased the course.
Mm-hmm.
You got only 3-month access for the
yes. Yeah. You were given access to recorded courses prior to the start of the live courses, but then the duration of access to your course material, your virtual course material, only extended maybe 30 days after the conclusion of the course. It wasn't very long. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was something I actually commented on and reached out to them about because I thought surely I had misunderstood that, but no, you lose access pretty quick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
especially because like it's a lot of material. The
it's
PE,
a lot of money.
right? How much was the course?
It was 3,000 for both of them.
Wow,
Mhm.
really? $3,000. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So okay, could you have gotten just,
I
let's
think
say,
it was 3,000. Maybe it was 2. It was a lot. That's the point. Go on. Sorry.
okay, it was a lot. Okay, so let's say oh, my question was, if you wanted to, let's say, just get like the depth course, could you
Mhm.
have done that?
Yeah, you could have done it. Yes.
Okay. Now looking back, do you feel like you wish you would have done that, taken just the depth, and then for the morning portion, you could have just used the
Yes.
accelerator afternoon course? That would that have helped you?
Yes. Now the answer to your question is yes. Now the challenge of that is that the PE questions are a little more complex than because you go through everything very clearly, and so I could use the PE example questions and then reference a lot of portions in your class and be able to solve those problems. But it just wasn't like your example problems just weren't apples to apples in regards to example problems that we discussed in your course and then example problems that are actually provided on the PE exam. But it's again, like transportation comes to mind. I've rewatched your transportation section with certainty twice and possibly a third time when I was going through some of the example problems, just because the definitions and some of the terminology. I just took a standard transportation course when I was in college. And so revisiting that material with your courses helped me to better solve those problems. And then I might have had to dig into something else, another avenue, or more Googling, more internet search in order to really get to the exact solution. But again, with everything that I went through with the PPI breath course, I really could have just skipped that part because the materials that they provided were still not NCES aligned either. It was still based on the paper pencil version instead of the computer-based testing. So, and in all fairness to the course, I mean, that was a pretty not sudden change, but that's a big change. So to be able to revamp their materials that quickly, I see how that could take time. But again, too, and using the materials, it was difficult because they never referenced the NCS handbook in their course materials. Yeah, they did through the course, the virtual course, they would point out which sections that we would need to address. But it's
Yeah.
not exactly, yeah. So you had to find a lot of that. So
Yeah, it's different because it's like, you're using the reference handbook during the exam. You want to make sure you use it as much as you can while you're studying as well and reference back to it, because then you become real quick at finding the equation during the exam as well.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like, like our afternoon course gives you that foundation of the problem of the
Mhm.
engineering, right? Of those subjects, but it's not necessarily exactly how it is for the PE questions, like the
Correct.
wording, because it's more designed for the FE, which kind of makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Now, so it sounds like okay, so it sounds like you used the PPI course, our afternoon course, which you already had access to from the FE. You didn't have to purchase it again.
Correct.
And then was there any other study material that you used, like any YouTube channels that you might have found helpful, or Google, anything else?
No, not really. Nothing particularly comes to mind. There were some courses when I was taking the FE exam, but that stood out, but none for the PE really. The PPI course did provide a lot of material, and then like I'd already mentioned, the professor for the depth course was extremely helpful. And he would answer any questions after hours. And he and I actually got on the phone and discussed a couple of problems just one on one at one point, which was extremely helpful, just like you and Praneeth do.
Hmm, that's
So yeah, so
awesome.
I got that feedback with him.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, did you take any practice exams?
Yes, I
Okay.
took I think maybe seven.
Wow. 7.
One,
Okay.
no, 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 no. I took, I took, I took five. I took five practice
5?
exams.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I had to recount that because there were only two full practice exams available: the NCS practice exam and then the PPI practice exam, and then the others were oh shucks, Islam.
Okay.
Yeah, he does some FE practice exams as well, and
Mhm.
he's also developed PPE or the PE exams. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I went through, and then his booklet has 3 breadth and 2 depth, and so combined, yeah, about 5.
Okay. Was it helpful? Did you find them relevant to what was on your exam?
Yes. It was relevance to the exam, in addition to practicing use of the handbook. Yeah, it's, yeah, the PE exam is different in regards to it's just more complex questions. But again, too, there were some off the wall questions that were asked. It was more focused because you obviously understand that you're going to have a breadth and then specifically water resources. But at the same time, too, I was asked a transportation question that I really don't think should have been on there. It was way out there. But there it was. Um,
Yeah.
so using those practice exams helped me become more comfortable with using the sections within the handbook. And then again, to just preparing myself for the complexity of the problems to come.
Okay. Did you change your study habits compared to the FE, or did you study the same way as you did with your FE?
I studied the same way, and then I learned from the mistakes that I made with the FE. Practice exams was one of those. I didn't understand the helpfulness of just working through practice exams. So, for example, went through all the material and became what I consider to be comfortable enough with all the topics covered in the breadth section, and then of course with water resources in the depth. And there was a lot of relearning too. I hadn't had a wastewater treatment experience since college. So really going through and relearning all of those processes and the biology that and chemistry that is
Mhm.
vital to that entire process. Um, that was a learning curve for myself. But what I learned from the FE exams is going through the practice exams really just kind of sets a platform of putting all that information that we cover into an organized manner. And so with these practice exams, I first went through each of them and just went through the problems and worked through the problems and was okay being stumped by things I didn't understand and would research in order to be able to complete them to some effective degree in order to get a better understanding of what I knew and what I didn't know. And then I would rework the problems again. I think I actually did those same exams 3 times.
Oh.
Yeah, because it was really just the habit of going back through the problems, so.
Okay, so the first time you take a look at it, you would just do them, not worry about time management. You just try to solve as many problems as you can on your own by yourself, and then after that, you would try to do it one more time, maybe with time management, and see how you're doing, and then you
Mhm.
would do it again just to improve your score. Is that how?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what other study habits or study tips that you found really helpful for when you were preparing for your PE?
Again, same with the FE, scheduling and discipline. Having the dedicated time, and knowing what that dedicated time is. Myself, I'm a morning person. I always studied in the morning. I started a new job prior to taking the FE exam, so that required a little bit of adjustment, but I followed suit with that same studying habits, and I'd always use my lunch break in order to revisit something. Um, Also, too, one thing that's kind of different was asking people around me for a little bit of help. Um, we One of the topics was it was about watersheds. I'll just speak very vaguely and asked a coworker. I'm like, what is this? And being able to put it more hands on was a big help. And that's something that when it comes to the PE, that I think we have the opportunity to do more than the FE. Not many people were studying calculus.
Yeah.
But for the P, we all are looking at Manning's equations and Darcy Weisbach, and we're doing these things on a regular basis. And so being able to have these discussions and put a real life experience to the material that I'm studying was helpful. But yeah, the scheduling and the discipline are vital. I still stuck with the practice that if I just wasn't feeling it that day, to not force it. But there's a difference in not feeling it, not wanting to do it, and understanding that difference because there's, everybody always, well, not everybody, but, I would always like to be doing whatever it is that I want. Um, but there was some days that just my mind wasn't processing, or I began to feel frustrated really quickly, and it's okay to take those breaks too. And then the benefit too now of the PE exam being computer based is, like I mentioned earlier, I could postpone the test easily. It's not just offered twice a year now, and I took advantage of that.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. That does help a lot. Just like mentally not having that pressure of making sure that you're ready by October or April. Now
Mhm,
knowing that it's always available gives you
mhm,
that more time to take your time and study and make sure you're ready before you go in and take it.
mhm.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Okay, awesome. And so you did mention that there's a difference between, not wanting to do it, or, there's a time where you really couldn't do it because you were tired. How did you know the difference between those two?
Really, one of them is just the understanding that you're being a brat, and the other one is really that mental fog.
Mm,
Because I think we all have that. We all have bad days,
yeah.
and the day doesn't have to be technically a horrible day in order for it to be a bad day. But if you're in a position where you don't have to force yourself, just like we were already speaking to, you can adjust the scheduling with the PE exam a little bit in order to give yourself more time. It was much more effective to sit down with a clear mind, not necessarily the feeling of frustration of why do I have to do this, versus I'm frustrated on this problem. Being frustrated on a problem is one thing, but when you're approaching it with, I don't even want to be doing this, it might not be the best day to study.
Mhm.
It kind of pulls all the fun out of it. So, and also too, the natural commitment. I mean, I won't go as far to say that anybody can do this. But at the same time, I think that anybody who's gotten to the academic and professional degree that we have has a really good shot if you really want it. And so if you're still in the position where you're really wanting it, you'll know the difference between if you want to study that day or if you're just if it's just not a good day. So
Okay. All right, let's talk about the day of your exam. So you took it the first time, right? You passed your FE exam on your
yeah.
first try.
Mhm.
Um,
My PE exam on the first try.
It's right. I think I said FE and I was like, wait, I
Yeah,
think I said FE. Right, I meant PE because I'm used to doing
right.
engineering for the FE.
Sure.
So yeah, so you passed your PE on your first try. So it's a little bit different because like when you go in the first time not knowing what to expect, like with your FE exam when you took it last time, you've already taken it twice, so you had an idea of what it was like. So going in, you really didn't know what to expect. What was that for you?
Well, so again, that's kind of a little bit of, I won't say I didn't know what to expect because what I had learned from the FE experience, because I took the FE 3 times. And so the second time that I didn't pass it, I knew I wasn't prepared. I wasn't entirely sure. I hadn't worked through practice exams yet. And so when I did take the FE exam to practice it, I knew what that level of comfortable with material felt like. And I had already worked through multiple practice exams. And so I took that experience into the PE. And so I didn't take the PE. Well, like I shared before, I didn't take it in May because I knew I wasn't ready. I knew what that felt like. So I postponed it. And then of course I went through multiple practice exams. And so when I went in that day, I didn't know entirely what was going to be on the test, but I already had the same, I don't know if confidence is exactly the word because that seems a little generic, to be honest with you. I had the same understanding that I knew I knew the material the best that I was going to know it that day. And I also literally went to the same building. And honestly, I wore the same jeans too. You never know.
Did you do that on purpose? Because you were
I
like,
did.
that much. Oh, it is. They're your lucky jeans.
Well, apparently, I'm not entirely superstitious, but they're comfortable. And I was considering I was going to be sitting there for 8 hours instead of just the 6 hours. Like, I'll just stick with what I know works. So, yeah, yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
So that was a little, and then also too with the, I learned from the FE to take a break. If you're taking the exam and you feel like you need a break, go take a break. It's not, having time management and then stressing yourself out uncomfortably is not necessary. Well, that for me, it just wasn't necessary. And so that was something else that I knew. And so in my first session, I took a break.
You did
Hmm.
before your actual break. You just in the middle, you were like, I need a break.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
walked out. What did you do? You just went for a walk or?
Went to the restroom, got some water, and came back in. Yep.
How many minutes were that? Did
I
you
don't
take a break?
know. I
Okay.
didn't check it. Well, for me, and this is just me personally, time management has never been a problem. I don't know why. Again, I don't want to sound cliche, but I'm kind of one of those people that works well under pressure.
Oh,
I don't even really, I can't really articulate exactly what that means, but I do know from my experiences, time management's never been a problem. And actually with the PE exam, I went through the breadth section 3 times before I hit submit final. And I went through the depth section. Well, excuse me. Okay. Then I went through the depth section 3 times before hitting the final submit. I hesitated for a moment there because you will get depth questions in the morning and you will get breadth questions in the afternoon. They're not entirely exclusive. So, but yeah, I don't think I've ever checked through a test as thoroughly as I did with the PE. And I had time to do that and I had time to spare.
okay. I was gonna ask you next about like the format of the PE exam. Was it like uh were the questions in the order of the subjects that are in the specifications, or was it just like a mix of everything? And was the breadth like mostly from the breadth and a little bit of the depth, or was it completely like just mixed 50-50?
No, it was how you just spoke to. It was the breadth was mostly the depth.
Okay.
Most the breadth was mostly breadth with some depth, and then vice versa in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Did that throw you off? Just having like, going from water's environmental problem to like
Mhm.
transportation back to structures back.
Mhm.
Did that? No, you were fine. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, the I had known that that was a possibility, and then I think too, where I went through so many practice exams, you're already looking at a jumble of different problems anyway. So
Okay, that makes sense. Do you remember how much time you spent in the breath section and in the depth?
So I only spent 3 hours on the breath.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that was with going through it and checking it 3 times. I'm not joking. I've never yeah. It was I had a coworker that also took it and, I don't remember when he took it. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. It was earlier this year, and he said the same thing. He didn't use all of his time. So, I don't know if that's a new, like, CBT version that makes I don't really know. I don't wanna give anybody the impression, "Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry
Right.
about time management." But, yeah, 2 of us had plenty of time,
So you checked it 3 times.
3
Why?
times.
Why is that? Why didn't you just submit it after you checked it the first time?
'Cause I could, and I did not wanna take that test again. And it was one of those that, and again, where I had just taken the FE, I knew what the feelings were for, I'm confident in that answer or I'm not, or, I'm confident in my educated guess or I'm not.
Mm.
And so once I knew that I had gotten to that point, then I just moved on. And so there were some problems that I would go back and I would rework because they're not simple problems. I mean, they're complicated. And they take time. I wish I had one that was coming to mind right now to be able to be more helpful. But it would be that you would have to take a certain situation, derive a range of values, and then make an assessment of something within those range in order to move into like a second layer of the problem for your final answer. And if you've got the time to do that, then do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you finish early the exam?
Hmm.
You did. How
Hmm.
how much early?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just know it was early
Okay.
because it was one of those. I'm like, I'm good. Like this is as good as it gets.
Okay.
Yeah, I had already, like I said, already gone back through the problems and I will share this. This is kind of out of the sequence of your questions, but apparently I blocked that out till just now. When I sat down to start the PE exam, I completely froze.
Wow.
About
Okay.
this. Yes. Yeah, I couldn't remember anything. One of the very first questions was calculating. I was trying to think exactly what they were trying to calculate. Intervals of delivery for material. It wasn't complicated, and I could not calculate if a truck's going 5 miles per hour, how long it takes to travel 10 miles or whatever it was. I mean, my brain completely stopped, and everybody knows how to calculate that. Like, oh my God, I can't even do this. And so, yeah, I took a big deep breath and just kind of, I don't know, covered my face and went to a quiet place, and then things kind of balanced back out. But I totally forgot about that till just now. Yes. And so my brain just had to unravel, I suppose. And then once I got started, it was fine. And then everything else that I've shared with you occurred. But I forgot when I first started, I totally froze.
That's
So,
a big one.
yeah, it is a big one. I guess I blocked it out. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it.
Because like you were like, I have no problem with time management.
Uh-huh.
I finished the
Yeah.
exam
Yeah.
early. I took a break in the middle of my
I
exam.
did.
I'm
Yes.
not worried, right? It's funny because like you don't even remember how much time you had left. You were like, I'm good. You submitted,
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm out of here. And
Yeah,
then
that's funny, yeah.
yeah,
And
and
all
then
the
you
honest
forgot.
yeah, all that
Yeah.
confidence is totally true. I guess it's 'cause I completely freaked out at the beginning of the exam and was just like, "I got nothing. Universe, it is all you. You do this." I have no idea. But yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about that. I did.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you shared it because like that happens so many times. You just
Mhm,
I think you get super anxious.
mhm,
And then you said it, I think maybe twice or maybe once, but you said it where you were like, I don't want to redo this exam. It's an
mhm.
8-hour exam and I don't want to redo it. And maybe that got in your head and then you saw that exam and you just froze. And I'm glad you were able to like really calm yourself down and I think a lot of people could relate to this. I think it happens to a lot of people. And so I really like what you did, just like take a big breath, maybe just go to like a quiet place in your mind and just you breathe through it and then try again. Did you flag that problem and then you went back to it later, or did you try it again right away?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I really don't. I know, I don't remember. The only thing that was really significant, like I said, about that problem is I couldn't do the math to calculate what we calculate every day. And that's how I knew I was frozen.
Yeah.
Because I can't calculate something that I know I know how to calculate. It's not a wastewater problem. So I don't remember if things, like I said, if things unraveled and then they became clear again, and I was able to solve the problem then, or maybe I did flag it and return to it later just because it had bad juju on it or something. I don't really know. But, but like I said, I went back through and worked through every problem anyways.
Okay. Now that you passed your FE and your PE,
Mhm.
do you find like one of them is harder than the other one?
Yes, the FE was harder.
The FE was harder, really?
Yeah, yeah. So that's
Why
I
is
don't
that?
know. Yeah, if you remember my story or not, I graduated in 2007. And so I haven't had this fundamental course material in a long time. So when I went back to study, I had a pretty steep learning curve. And so for me, the FE was definitely more difficult because there was so much more material. But then when it came to the PE, for me, I already had the FE experience. I already was disciplined in studying, and I already had kind of that skill set to be able to work through the problems. And so for someone who is taken their FE and there's been a period of time getting into their PE, getting back into the habit, back into the discipline may be a challenge. But again, if you focus on the material is so much more narrow with the PE. I think it was easier to learn and relearn than it was with the FE because there's so much. So others who probably go the more traditional path of taking the FE just out of college or in their last few semesters may find the FE easier for them. But at the same time, too, again, I don't think I still think the FE was more challenging because the material is just so much more broad.
How many subjects are usually in the PE?
Oh, I could walk over there and look at the list of it. I think the breath section has I don't know, 7, 8 topics. It's exactly what you well, no, more or less the topics that you cover in your afternoon
Okay.
session. And then the of course water resources has water, wastewater, stormwater, watershed management, uh shucks. Groundwater. So we'll say another 6 or 7.
Okay. Okay. But it's the same kind of like concepts, and it's less material, I guess, if you take a look at you compare it to the FE.
It is. Yeah, because I mean, like with groundwater, it's confined or unconfined aquifers. It's the specific equations. I don't remember the name of those off the top of my head that would go along with confined or unconfined. I mean, it's porosity equations. It's a lot of the same stuff. And so if you've gone through a lot of those practice exams that ask those types of general questions, you're not going to get a lot of curveballs.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what I thought was a little easier.
Here's a question, because the path you took is slightly different. You took the FE exam as soon as you graduated, if I remember correctly. You failed the FE, and then years later you tried to take the FE exam. If you had to do it again, would you do it the same way, or would you have preferred passing the FE exam as soon as you graduated and now take the PE?
Yes, and I think actually now you can graduate, take the FE, and then take the PE immediately. Yeah, and then I would absolutely recommend that. Yeah, I would not recommend doing it how I did it. Because it was one of those that everything that I learned in college, well, not everything, but much of the fundamental material that I learned in college, I had to relearn. And that was just probably a year out of my life that was extra because I didn't stick it out and take the FE and pass it right out of college. Of course, when I graduated from college, you still had to wait 4 years before you could take the PE exam. So, but whatever. Yeah. So
Right.
no,
Yeah.
I don't recommend my path.
Yeah. Now it changed, but because the reason I asked, because I actually just had the call with one of our students 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and and she's been struggling passing her FE exam, and she took it right after college. But it was interesting because during the call, sounded like she was grateful that now she's able to take it, because right after she can take her PE. Whereas
Yes.
like if she did graduate, if she did pass her FE as soon as she graduated, she would have now started preparing for her PE, and that would have been much harder, like you said. And
Yeah.
so that's why, because her friends who did pass their FE right away, now they're struggling with the PE.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it's very interesting. But now that they changed it, and you know, it's actually not for all the states. Some states you still have to have the 4 years of experience before you can take your PE.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not, yeah, right. So it's like it's slowly changing. Hopefully it changes everywhere, because it does make things much easier for a lot of people. If you graduate, you take your FE, and right after you take your PE, it's great because the material is so fresh, and then you get your 4 years of experience, and then you can get like the stamp and your license. But yeah, so you recommend basically to the students who just graduated, take both of them and then
Knock
go
it out.
enjoy your life.
Yep. Yeah, I
Okay.
really would. I have some coworkers here that still kind of like, go ahead and do it. I get it. Nobody, and I also understand too. And that's the reason that I didn't stick it out to take the FE is you're tired of studying. You're tired. You're tired of testing. You're tired of studying. I mean, there's the rigorous amount of testing and quick recall and everything that's required for college. It's intense and stressful. And then we're given that option as adults to postpone having to endure another uncomfortable situation. Yeah, I can see why it's attractive. I made the same decision. But in hindsight, no, I would definitely recommend going ahead and taking them both and being done with it. It's really nice to be done.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah.
That sounds good. Did it get easier? Because when you were describing it, you were like, it's difficult. That was a really difficult journey of just like constantly studying, constantly having to show up and doing all that recall and all that. Like, because usually like the beginning is always the hardest, right? At any journey, it's always so hard to start. But once you start, things usually start to get easier. Did it get easier at any point?
I wouldn't necessarily describe it as easier, but the habit formed. And so then I was in the habit. And once I was in the habit, you can kind of negotiate with your time, with yourself, with your time for a little bit. Well, I'll study here and I'll study there. But once the habit's established, it's kind of hard to start to question and negotiate yourself. It's more hard to say, well, I'm not going to study tonight. Yeah, you are, because that's what you do. The kind of that internal guilt drives you a little bit more. So, and that became, I got that response faster. So in those terms, it would be easier because again, like I said, once the discipline was established, it was more difficult to deviate from the discipline. And so that, yeah, it was pushing me through. In regards to the retaining the information and problem solving, it just was topical. It depended on what it was. Some of the things I enjoyed, most everything that I studied with the PE I enjoyed. And that's definitely something to look forward to. So for people that are studying for their FE right now, just keep in mind, once you're done with that, then you get to focus on the fun stuff, whatever your fun stuff is. I mean, I really enjoy learning more about water resources. I mean, I haven't, like I already shared, I haven't had a wastewater treatment class in a while. And being able to revisit all of those processes and be able to relearn that, it's kind of a reminder of, oh yeah, that's why I went into this discipline. I do like it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, it was much more fun to study for the PE than it was for the FE because it's more focused.
Yeah. Why did you want to take your FE and your PE? What was the desire? What was the thing that really kept you, like, drove you and kept you going?
I never did, and I didn't like it. I didn't. It was one of those that I always had the feeling like I started the job and never finished it. And then it finally got to the point that little whatever it was tick inside that was bothered by the fact that I didn't finish the job was just too loud and annoying to ignore. And so I started studying. I started studying in the winter, the end of the year for 2019. And then, as everybody knows, 2020 comes around, and I've already started studying for the FE, and then the world shuts down.
Right.
And so pandemic was awful. I don't want to ever say anything otherwise. But for a person that was on my journey, it was extremely convenient because that's what I did. And so for the year 2020, I buckled down and relearned a lot of the material that I learned in college. And honestly, I really truly can't say where the continued willingness and perseverance came from. I don't know, but it kept coming. And then once I didn't really know if I was going to be able to pass the FE. That was the big one. And I think I shared that with you in the last interview. I really didn't know if I was capable of doing it. I didn't know if I was capable of retaining the information. I didn't know if I was capable of relearning. I literally didn't know. And so when I passed it, I had no reason to not pass the PE because I didn't think I could pass the FE, and I did. So why would I even consider that I couldn't pass the PE? I've already gone through that mind game. So it was a little bit more like, okay. But yeah, and then that's again, if you do the math on it, it only took me really 5 good months of studying to pass the PE. And, I don't know, we haven't talked about any of this, but I'm not fresh out of college and I've got 2 14-year-old kids, so life is full. So I feel like if I can figure out a schedule that works in order to learn the information and pass the test, there's a lot of hope for a lot of people. So.
Okay. Why did you decide to take water resources and environmental engineering? The reason I'm asking you this question, because I always get emails from people after our students, after they pass their FE, they always go, well, I get 2 questions. Kenza, when are you going to launch the PE course? And then the second question, which PE should I take?
Yeah.
So, why did you decide to take the water resources?
Sure. So there's 2 answers to that question. One, because that's my interest. I have 10 years of experience in air quality, which actually does kind of couple with fluids, except it's more chemical based. Well, I don't know if it's more chemical based. It's very chemical based. And then I returned to water quality about 5 years ago, and kind of went back to my first love, if you will. So my experience has been in environmental and water resource. And then also too, that's primarily the courses that I took in college because that was my intent in the first place. The PE exam is it's some experience is helpful, but it's an academic test. It's not an experience test. If you've had the experiences, I see it as helpful, but if you haven't had the experience, it's not like you're not going to be able to answer that question. So does that make sense?
Yeah, which also makes sense why maybe they're reconsidering the whole, you have to have the 4-year experience before you're taking the PE, because maybe after all, you don't really need that experience and you can just go ahead and take your PE right away. So
Correct. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's helpful because any real life application is going to help you learn something. It's just like having any other hands-on experience, but it's far from impossible. I've never worked in wastewater.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Now, how did passing the PE affected your personal life and professional life?
Okay, so the professional life is kind of easy to answer. So first of all, there was a bit of monetary compensation. I didn't know I was going to get a bonus, so that was nice. Of course, they encourage everything in regards to getting your license, and so any other we need to talk about the license part of your application too at some point in this interview. I think people would be interested in hearing about that. And so anytime that I needed to take in order to complete my application, they were helpful with that. And then having a PE just obviously gives me a little bit more credibility as an employee. And then the weird part about that is like I shared earlier, I changed jobs in July of 2021. And actually my previous employer I used to work with government and I would now be making a whole lot more money in my previous position, which now opens up a whole lot more opportunities for me in general. And so it's really kind of strange. I don't know, you know, when you look on LinkedIn and you look at, you know, do you have the qualifications for this job, or do you know it? It's, you know, it's kind of black, white, yes, no. However, with the way that our culture is currently evolving, having a PE license means a whole lot more. So certain positions and certain opportunities that may or may not require a PE license, if you communicate with them and let them know that you have that, it can be a game changer. So yeah, my current employer is completely psyched and encouraging everything, and we've got a lot of good extra projects on the table that are coming along, and then where they're kind of in the process of training me for project management, I'll be I'm on that track, and then considering I do have a license puts me in a greater position for responsibility, um, just because. Which gives me a little bit more opportunity just because.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, you know, this is why like I really try to encourage people to take their FE and their PE, because after that you have like so
It's
many
great.
opportunities. And it's so crazy because it's like, you know, Beth, if we just take a look at back, you know, we could say you started preparing for your FE, like really like started preparing like what, 2021, when you got our courses, and then you passed your FE by
Yeah.
the end of that year,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then just like, you know, what it took you like a year and a half to get both.
Yeah.
And then when you look at, you know, like your 25 years of experience in the engineering industry, what is
Yeah.
1 year and a half
Right.
in, right? And
Right.
so it's like,
Mhm.
you know, and then after that, it's just like the opportunity that comes your way. And then also like
Mhm.
the credibility that you said. And just like, I think the biggest one is just like the employer just start to trust you more, and then just gives you more tools that you would need so that you can keep excelling and going into that path.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
did
It's
you,
definitely an indicator of being teachable. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Did you tell your employer that you were preparing for your PE?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So okay, and you did say that you asked for help at work when you had,
Yeah.
okay,
I would reach
so
out on
everybody,
occasion.
the people knew. Okay,
Yeah.
just because like there's that little pressure, you know. Did you get that pressure when you went to take your exam? Did you feel that pressure? Oh man, I
Mhm.
have to pass this, because if I don't, I don't want to tell people that I failed. No.
Oh, the humblest part. Yeah. The pride and all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah. Well, the odd thing is that when I started studying for the PE, one of my coworkers was also studying for the PE. And when
Okay.
he passed, that's when I was like, man, now I'm gotta pass. I'm gonna look stupid. So yes, yeah, my pride had me there. But at the same time, there's nothing things worked out good, obviously, but there's nothing you can do about it. If you do the best you can, you do the best you can. I didn't pass the FE a couple of times, and I'm still the same person with the same brain. So it is what it is. Yeah.
Right. You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of times, like, I get students where they go like, you know, my coworker just passed their FE, and or like, you know, they just got hired. I've been here for so long, and that person, you know, got their FE already, and my boss is looking at me, and you just like, and you know, there's that pressure that really, you know, adds to it. And so, but I'm glad you were able to go like, you know, I'm happy for him. I'm just gonna like focus on what I have control over, and just like keep studying and stuff. So I'm glad you were able to do that. Um, let's talk about the application. Can you tell us a little bit more
Oh
about that?
yeah. Yeah. So that's one of those. So the application process, try to consolidate the story here to be as helpful as possible. So you have to put all this is for the NCES application. And so you have to have all of your previous employers, your previous experience, and then your the reference associated with that experience, in addition to 5 references. And I can't recall if the 5 references have to all be PE references. Mine all were, but they definitely had to have 5 professional references. Now the challenge for that, oh, in addition to your academic transcript. So
Mm.
you have to have your academic transcript in order to take the FE exam. And so therefore NCS already had my academic transcript. But where I graduated from high school, I started college, but then I took 2 years off, still trying to figure out what I wanted to major in. Went back to college, graduated, and then started my professional work. All of that time from high school on has to be accounted for. And so it's if you already have your FE or you are already working and you're gaining engineering experience, document what you're doing, because with each of your professional experiences, it's not just I worked at this company under this licensed PE. It's this company and I did this task and I participated in these projects and the projects had this purpose. And so, yes.
Wow.
And so for myself, where my professional career started in the beginning of 2008, I had to go back and remember the projects that I was working on from 2008 up until 28, well, up until current. But, you know, like I referenced earlier, I worked with air quality. And so the projects that I was working on from 2008 to 2018. And so you give representative projects, but I was there was different phases of employment through that. So again, that would be my recommendation. If you're already gaining engineering experience, document the projects that you're working on to some form so that you can recall what that is when the time comes, and then the appropriate contact for that. Yeah, because that took some thinking.
Yeah. How long was the application? Like, did you submit? I wonder how many pages you submitted in your application.
Well, it's all electronic.
Okay.
And so I was able to consolidate my air quality experience into 2 submittals because the licensed PE that I was working under when I first started retired. And so I had to break up that time frame and then have the second licensed PE for this second time frame, which means I now had 2 entries for different projects.
Wow.
And then I had to remember when I worked on this project, was it before or after he retired? And so I know it was something, it was a curveball.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know anything about NCES doesn't let you look ahead at the application process. So you don't really know, you're going to have references because those things are titled a little bit, but you don't really know the depth that's going to be required. And it's not complicated. It was some work I wouldn't like, just give me the stamp for crying out loud. But no. Yeah, because they create an ongoing record for you, which makes your licensure in other states easier to acquire. So, if I wanted to apply for an adjacent state, I would just see if I met those qualifications or if any other testing conditions were required. And then NCS obviously still has all of my projects logged. So, I mean, it's a useful tool. I just wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
So did you go through that after you took the exam?
You don't get access for it until after you pass. So, yes.
So, okay. So yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you submitted
Yeah.
all of that after you took your PE. And how long did it take you to put all that together?
It took probably about 6 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And well, and I mean, of course I'm working and I'm not working on my
Right.
application full time, but it was, I had to start by reaching out to a buddy that I used to work with and ask him what the heck we were working on 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
'Cause I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You forget. I mean, because you
Yeah.
work on so many projects, you forget. Okay.
And yeah, and you have to get representative projects in there in order to get the engineering credit. So yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Do you have your license now? Did you get
I
it?
do.
Okay, so you got approved. Congratulations.
Yep.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, Beth. I have one last question. I always like to ask this question to our students. If a student comes up to you who is trying to pass their PE right now, what's the #1 advice you would give them? What would you share with them?
Practice exams. Yeah, knowing when you're comfortable with the material and working through practice exams. yeah, I still think that repetition is key. Again, like you and I've already discussed, this is not an experience test; it's an academic test. And so, being prepared with an understanding of the material and knowing how to uh, manipulate what it is that you know in order to effectively apply it to the problem. Yeah, I think that's the key. And then I know you said one thing, but the other one is always know your handbook. Yeah, there was a question that I got. I don't even remember the subject matter. I had not looked at it at all and just did a search with my handbook and was able to find enough. I don't obviously don't know if I got the question right or not, but I felt pretty confident about it. But was able to derive what it was that I found in the handbook in order to apply it to the question and have an answer, have a seemingly educated answer. Let's put it that way. So
All
yeah.
right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us the second time and for sharing your PE experience. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, not a problem. I know. Good luck to you and everybody else in the future.